What's going on, guys? It's your boy Caribeño, and we're back with another video for you guys. All right. Lately, there has been a lot of talk about Danny Garcia and whether or not he needs to get this win in this third division world championship over Lara to be a Hall of Famer, or is he already a Hall of Famer? Has he done enough? Has he not? Well, I'm here to talk about and give you guys my opinion and see, how many of you may agree or disagree with me. So Danny Garcia has a record standing at 37 victories, 3 losses, 21 big wins by way of knockout, and that makes it out to be a 56.76 KO percentage. Very impressive. The guy hails out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, of Puerto Rican heritage, both parents being Puerto Rican, and him being part of that big heritage of Puerto Rican fighters and Puerto Rican world champions in the books. I am going to go ahead and say that I 100% believe that he is a Hall of Famer, and I have my reasons, and I want to lay them out for you and see how you guys feel about this. The first reason is his resume. Danny, without an argument, he has fought the best at their best throughout his career, and has been the underdog throughout most of his career. His career had to be built from the ground up. He was put in as an opponent, and he had to shock the world on multiple occasions. So this is a big reason as to why. And I want to list a few of these victories and notable victories and talk about how they impact his legacy. The first one, obviously, that I want to talk about is Eric Morales, where he became a world champion for the first time. And talk about the context behind that fight. He came in as an underdog, as a guy that was gonna just be an opponent with an undefeated opponent for the legend Eric Morales to come in there and claim yet another title, and that was the WBC 140-pound title. And what does Danny Garcia do in there? Goes to war with the legend Eric Morales and takes that strap from him, and that's where the Danny Garcia kind of story begins in the public eye, if you will. Right after that, he's thrown into the lion's den to fight the already established and highly touted Amir Khan, the fastest hands I've probably ever seen or in boxing, or one of them, and shocks the world. He comes in as a massive underdog to defend his world championship and lands that beautiful no-look left hook that everybody, the eyes-closed left hook that he landed, putting Amir Khan absolutely to sleep, becoming, being able to accomplish the first defense of his title against none other than Amir Khan. And this is where his name starts to, he starts to build actual respect from the fans and everything like that. Then he fights Eric Morales for a second time and then wins in emphatic fashion with a ugly knockout where he punches Eric Morales through the ropes, and ugly knockout, ugly thing to watch a legend go down that way. Then he fights Sab Judah to defend his title. Then fights the guy that nobody wanted to fight, the machine at the time, the Máquina, the Argentinian slugger, Lucas Matisse. And going into this fight again, he was the underdog. And what does he do? He gets in there, he boxes, he uses different wrinkles into his game, using his jab, using his lateral movement, landing big power shots in between Lucas Matisse's onslaughts, dodging, catching shots, hurting Matisse, eventually dropping him in the 11th round and winning an impressive, hard-fought 12-round decision to retain his title. And at this point is where you start to see the trajectory that Danny's career is going into, not turning down any fights, always looking to prove himself. And then he has a bad fight against Mauricio Herrera. We all know how that went down. Then he starts moving up in weight, fights Lamont Peterson to a controversial decision. He fights Robert Guerrero, Paulie Malignaggi, Keith Thurman, the undefeated Keith Thurman, when nobody wanted to fight him. When he was undefeated, he was holding the WBA title. Danny was bringing in the WBC title, and they clashed, and he only lost that fight be a split decision. I thought it could have gone either way. Definitely, you could lean more towards Thurman because he had the more clear power punches in that fight. But it was a very back and forth fight, a chess match with two young, hungry in their prime power punchers, boxer punchers, that could really just do it all in there. It was very impressive. Now, then he fights Brandon Rios. After that, to bounce back, gets the knockout, becomes the first guy to ever knock out Brandon Rios. Then he fights Sean Porter right after that. Barely any breaks. Fights a tough guy, journeyman, and Brandon Rios, who's never been knocked out in that fashion, knocks him out. Then immediately after that, goes after another big fight in Sean Porter. And it was a very competitive fight, very back and forth fight with another prime pressure, rough fighter in there, and looks good and loses the fight, but it wasn't like he got washed. He didn't get dominated. He just lost a decision, but it was a very good fight, very entertaining. Right after that, he fights Adrian Granados. We all know how that went. Then he fights Ivan Rekach, another fighter that he dominated. Then this is the only performance that you could say where somebody made Danny Garcia look bad, and that was against Errol Spence Jr. But we can't blame him for that. And it's, to me, the only fight in which he looked like he got dominated. It was the only fight that he's ever been dominated in, and we could talk about the reasons as to why. I'm not gonna make excuses for Danny Garcia in that fight. The better man won, but that was the only fight, in my opinion, that you could say that Danny struggled and got actually dominated. It was Errol Spence, and that was Errol Spence, the natural 140 pounder, the dominant welterweight champion. We all know about him. And then he goes and fights Jose Benavidez Jr. after that, and looks sensational again, showing the fact that he could box, that he's not just a counter puncher with timing and power. He shows that he could use his feet, boxing from the outside, using his head movement, punching in combination, looking impressive, looking fluid. Obviously he's not as fluid as some of the other champions, but I think it's an unfair reputation that he also has had, in which people have called him flat-footed, that he can't move. And I obviously think that's not the case. He's shown in multiple patients he could brawl, he could counter, he could box, he could use his feet. He does live up to his name. He's very swift. He has shown that he could hang with the best of them, and he has always been willing to fight the best of them. And that is actually the biggest reason as to why. So he is a multi-time division champion. Was a champion at 140, champion at 147-pound division, facing the toughest names in their prime, never making an excuse, and always being competitive, always being entertaining, and being a power puncher that got knockouts and entertained the fans. And it's simple. I've seen plenty worse fighters get into the Hall of Fame, and if they're worthy of being there, trust me, Danny Garcia is. And getting a win over Erislandy Lara, who is also a multi-divisional, slick, skillful, freaking technician, would definitely boost his career and make it further solidified. But no, in my opinion, he doesn't need to get the victory necessarily to be in the Hall of Fame, but it would definitely help his case and his legacy. And that's all for today's video, guys. I got more content coming for you guys. Stay tuned, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.